Today I have been asked to speak about the relevance of Periyar to today's politics, the social and cultural life of our nation. When Periyar was born in 1879, the situation there was much different from what it was today. It's very, very relevant to us. And during his times, particularly his transformation, after he went to Kashi and saw what was happening there, was probably a turning point in his life. And then his fight against the caste system, exploitation by the upper caste, that is mainly by the Brahmins who are the exploiters of everybody, the superstitions and the various types of exploitation that he faced in those days, and his campaign against them lasting for nearly, I should say, around 50 years, has been a turning point in the social life, the political life of this country. Of course, the impact that he made has brought into existence the Dravidian parties, the political parties, as well as I think it has influenced the Bahujan Samaj, the BSP of North India. Today, if there's a fight against the hegemony, the Manusmriti dominated party that is ruling the country today, the resistance is mainly coming through a process which is initiated by Periyar. So that is the relevance of Periyar to the Indian politics today. If you look at the rise of this Manuvadi party, about which I should speak more, because this party is spreading its octopus-like tentacles all over the country, to one means or the other, and thereby dominating everything. If Periyar had demolished an idol of Ganapati, that was, I think, nearly 50 years back. If it happens today, what would happen? There's something which we have to say. After all, an idol is a possession, it's a thing made of some mud or plaster of Paris or whatever it is. If it was demolished by him that day, and if it is done today, you can just imagine what will be the reaction happening across the country. What will be the reaction of the Manuvadi party? What will be uh, I should say, the thing that will follow when if such a thing happens today is what we have to think, and that gives us how the polity has changed from those times to today. How the RSS, the BJP, with their language, with their culture, has come to dominate the whole public ethos, public platform. Is a case study in how fascism can infiltrate a society which was broad-minded, I mean relatively broad-minded than what it is today, and it was a sort of society which was diverse. The diversity is being undermined today by the domination of religion over politics. So this is what Periyar had been fighting about all his life. In fact, he quit the Congress because of the caste system ingrained there. He said Gandhi is standing for a Brahminical system of values. Gandhiji asked him to initiate the Vaikom Satyagraha, for the Dalits to get a right to walk on the roads. He did not give them a right to enter the sanctum sanctorum. where the gods are kept. So even when he was speaking, Gandhi was speaking about rights of Dalits, he was giving them a little promotion above their position in the hierarchy. He was not looking for equality as Periyar asked for. I think Tamil Nadu was the first state where the Dalits could even become priests. The upper castes were talking about merit, about their ability to do things by merit. Do not talk about merit when it comes to the positions of, say, priests in their own temples. This was what Periyar emphasized upon during those times. That is what he was talking about when he said, come out of the hegemony of this upper caste. Some say he was against Brahmins. No, he was not against Brahmins, but he was against Brahminism, the attitude of the mind that accepts some castes as superior. That is Brahminism. Brahmins are a set of people who happen to be born in a particular set of parents. For example, if you take my example, I was born to Brahmin parents, but I am against Brahminism for the simple reason that I believe in equality of human beings. I cannot say that a group of people are superior to others. That is what Periyar stood for. And that is why he is my hero. That's why I looked upon him as an example. It's not that I became an atheist because of Periyar, but I became an atheist at the age of 11 years. And when I went to study to Chennai, at Loyola College, Chennai, I came to know about Periyar, the Dravida Kalaham movement, and what he was doing. And that got my interest in organized protests against these things. Otherwise, I was an atheist by conviction, but not an active atheist. Later on, when we joined the movement, what Periyar had done was an example for us. The Dravida Kalaham was one of the founder members of Federation of Indian Rationalist Associations. And when the movement grew, naturally people from all over joined. And even today, the Dravida Kalaham, the movement which was founded by Periyar, remains a very staunch supporter of the Federation of Indian Rationalist Association. In fact, if we need to organize something in Chennai or in Tamil Nadu, we just contact Dravida Kalaham, Dr. Veeramani, or Kumaresan, who was our secretary, and immediately we can take it for granted that that activity will be arranged and it will be done. So this is the way our movement has been helped by Dravida Kalaham. Now, coming to the relevance of Periyar's thoughts for today, you cannot imagine that 50 years ago he talked about the equality of women. Because today you see, whatever lip service the ruling party may do, it is based on a patriarchal thing, where women are shown as a few examples that they are being equal. They talk about where the woman is worshipped, God's reside. But what are they doing in practice? That's what we have to see today. And the Periyar Maniammai University is a sterling example of empowerment of women. The number of girls that study there, the atmosphere there. And it is a university where there are no prayers, no worship. And it is a university which is ecologically sound, and in every way it stands for empowerment of women. Again, empowerment of women comes through marriage. Marriage, as you know, according to Brahminical rituals, is giving something. You are doing a kanyadan. But a self-respect marriage is not like that. A self-respect marriage is a relationship between two equals. That is what Periyar stood for. If you take the Brahminical rituals of marriage, the woman is given as a chattel or a possession, first to all some devatas and all. And after they are accepted by them, she is handed over to the bridegroom. The mantras say that. But in a self-respect marriage, it's not so. It's an equal relationship between the two. And it is, they marry by their own choice. It is not through a relationship which is witnessed by God or by a fire or by divine force. But it's an event witnessed by people who are like-minded, who also don't believe in such rituals. So that is what he did for empowerment. The tali, the thing that is tied around the neck of the woman by the husband, showing that it is a sort of position of mind, like to tie a tag around the neck of a cow. This tali is tied around the neck of a woman by the husband, showing that it is my position. That was vehemently opposed by Periyar. And there are functions, there are programs organized by his organization now, breaking the tali for women who have this tali tied around their necks by their husbands. They arrange a function where the talis are broken and thrown away, thereby showing that this primitive sign of enslavement is got rid of. Of course, I could not take my wife to a tali breaking event because I never tied a tali around her neck. Inspired by the self-respect marriages, I had taken a decision that I would never marry through a religious ceremony. So my marriage was through the Special Marriages Act because we do not have the self-respect marriage recognized as a common law marriage under any act. Even if it were, I would not do it because I did not want the tag of getting married under the Hindu Marriages Act. So that is what we encourage people. FIRA, as a matter of rule, encourages people to marry under the Special Marriages Act. It encourages every member organization to support those people who want to marry intercaste, interreligion. We, inspired by Kovur, inspired by Periyar, inspired by Premanand, who are all in the movement before us. Periyar's was a cultural, social movement and a rationalist movement. But the Federation of Indian Rationalist Association mainly goes into the cultural aspects, the social aspects, and the scientific aspects of it. Periyar stood for science. In fact, the institutes which he have founded, there is the pharmacy college, there are engineering colleges, they all stand for a scientific temple, which he stood for very much in his life. This is what we are advocating today, and that is what is needed today. And that is what is needed to counter the hypocrisy of the ruling dispensation at present. The previous speaker, Ms. Kanimoli, was speaking about that. Of course, she is in politics, she is an MP, and she can take the issues up in Parliament. We can take the issues up only in public forums, where we can fight against the irrationalism that is going on today. A mosque is demolished, a temple is built, and the temple is built today with public funds. A trust is started. Could you imagine this? But it is happening in our country today because a ruling party, which is Manuvadi, which stands for the hegemony of a set of people over the others, is ruling this country. We are talking about imposition of a language which is spoken only by 30% of the people, and it is called going to be imposed as a national language just to give advantage to a section of people. It's not that I am against languages. I can speak 9 languages, including Tamil. I have given speeches in these languages all over the country. But considering one language as superior and imposing it on others is something which is unacceptable to me. And this should not happen. Just like Tamil cannot be imposed as a national language over the rest of the country, Hindi also cannot be imposed as a national language over the rest of the country. This is what Periyar fought against. Imposition of a language, imposition of a culture, imposition of the ways of worship of a particular set of people over the others. Even the so-called gods and goddesses of the southern parts of the country somehow were brought under the trinity of the pantheon, under one or the other. Let me give you an example of the place where I am, Dakshina Kannada. The undivided Dakshina Kannada had 2 districts, Udupi and what is called as Dakshina Kannada today. Here the primitive, I should say the old, I cannot say primitive, I should say the old form of ritual was worshipping the local, something they called as bhutas, which was a form of ancestor worship as well as other things. But when the Brahminical forces came, all these rituals were looked upon as superstitions. Well, your pujas, your rites, the way you do things are not superstitions, but what is being done by these people are looked upon as superstitions. And then they were not able to suppress them. So they did clever things. For example, the Bhutas worshipped in this district, they all came under one Daiva called as Manjunatha, and this Daiva came under Shiva, a so-called avatar of Shiva called as Manjunatha. So Annapadeva, Manjunatha. That's how they tend to take over every single institution that is there for the people. The cultural activities. There is something called as Yakshagana Bailata which comes here as a part of the cultural activity. That's also taken over by these people. So, what Periyar opposed is being done very, very subtly. In fact, in Tamil Nadu itself, I see the people trying to follow these Brahminical rituals. And they're given a stamp of superiority. Well, the rituals which are prevalent in this place, which are culturally more compatible with the people, are looked upon as primitive superstitions, while those imposed by the Manuvadi Brahminical system are considered to be superior. So this is a systematic way how the culture, the religion, the language, everything is being dominated by a particular group of people who want to establish their hegemony, their fascist rule over the rest of the nation. It is not that the previous dispensations were very, very inclusive, but they were not as much exclusive as the present dispensation. And this is what today all those who hold Periyar in esteem have to follow, fighting these tendencies. In fact, It has become a sort of elected autocracy. This autocracy is being supported by theocracy. If you take the chief minister of a state like UP, they have put a head of a religious institution as the chief minister of a state. What more do you want? There is a contortionist manufacturing everything from soap to COVID-19 preventive immunity booster, who is being looked upon as a Rajguru. We have people like a double mister, Sri Sri. We have somebody who calls himself as a Sadguru, who incidentally is in Tamil Nadu. These are all the people looked upon as a think tank, as an advisory to the man who has been, I should say, elected as king, and all his courtiers are there. So this is the sort of situation today in this country where democracy is going for a toss. And this is what we have to fight today. The imposition of superstition on the people, imposition of nonsense on the people, imposition of the dietary habits, cultural habits, the language, and people do not have a choice. People have to follow this. Beef, which is also a cheap source of protein for many people, is being banned systematically, step by step. They are talking about imposing vegetarianism on a country where more than 70% of the people would like to eat meat, fish and eggs. This is what is happening in this country today. And these are the things that Periyar would have opposed tooth and nail if he were to be alive today. So, we have to be very, very vigilant. I know in a democracy, the Westminster type of democracy that we are seeing today, getting 37% of the votes can get you a huge majority of MPs, a sort of bulldozing majority of MPs in the parliament, shutting the voices of the others. The central forces are all in your hands. The CBI is a tool in your hands. The persecution of the dissenters is happening in this country today. And if somebody like Periyar were to be alive today, they would have sent the CBI after him or the enforcement department after him, saying that he has taken this foreign exchange or he has done this. So this is the sort of atmosphere that we have to face today and we have to fight. And Periyar is a big inspiration for us because he stood for these values of democracy, stood for the values of equality of all people. He fought against the imposition of the Manuvadi system. Even though the elected autocrat today claims to be an OBC, he is a living example of how Brahmanism can be there even in a person who is born in a OBC. And this is what we are seeing today. These values being imposed on the people very, very subtly. The media should have been independent. Today we have in Tamil Nadu, in India, an atheistic, openly declared atheistic media house at least, the Periyar Publication, which can boldly print a daily newspaper like Vidutale, which claims on its masthead that we are atheists. But the paid media in this country, the TV channels in this country are all being manipulated by the Manuvadi forces, holding up their values. holding up what they think as democracy, what they think as Indian culture. Even the concept of culture is something like what is being practiced in North India. The Hindi film music, their dance, their values, their patriarchy, and everything else. You see useless rituals being propagated as something which is revolutionary. Say something like Karwa Chauth. I don't know whether you've heard of it, most of it. It is where the woman eats after seeing her husband's face, along with him, the moon. So for all those days she has to starve. This is the imposition of the patriarchy among people. Today you see a big pogrom going against the actors. Who are the actors who are being summoned? Only the female ones. The male ones haven't been summoned as yet by the Narcotics Control Bureau. That should give you an idea of how equal they are. Was it only these women actors who are consuming these drugs? Were these only people who are involved there? They were the only people in parties. Equal number of males should have been there. But none of them are being targeted in this program so far. But we do not know what may happen. The film industry is thought to be taken over by them so that only movies which will go with so-called Indian values will be produced. The propaganda movies glorifying the Manwadis. This is something which I'm sure that we all have to oppose today, who are inspired by Periyar. Periyar had no formal education, but he had true education. He was self-educated. He started his thinking process, he started reading, he started learning, and he was called Socrates of the East because of his powerful intellect. It was not that Periyar had a formal education, but he had the true education. Today we see the people with formal education doing all sorts of nonsense. The sort of nonsense that is happening in this country is being spread before the world. Particularly in the present situation today, seeing the irrational attitudes of the ruling dispensation, we feel very, very sorry. The epidemic, the pandemic of COVID-19 that is happening today, about which I would like to speak a little more, has exposed everything that we are. The hypocrisy of the ruling party, the hypocrisy of the Manavadis are completely exposed in this pandemic. What did they do? The irrational decisions taken at every step by a panel of advisors. I do not know where they come from. Even a body like ICMR, which is supposed to be very scientific, is today not opening its mouth. In fact, it is going along with what these irrational people are putting into their, I should say, their declarations. Manipulations at every step. Non-science, but for whom? Is for the population. A big advisory is given by Ayush, Ayurveda, Yoga and Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, Homeopathy. This board has given such non-science in advisories to people, like consume this, consume that, but nothing works. And the signatory of that, one of the top signatories of that, Krishna, Vaidya Krishna, he just succumbed from COVID-19 last week in Coimbatore. Again, you give all this advice of consuming Chavanprash, grandma's decoctions, Gomutra to the people, but the cabinet ministers of this autocrat, the elected autocrat, what do they do? One cabinet minister has already passed away. Another cabinet minister is down with COVID-19. Who is supposed to be a sadhvi, a yogi, Uma Bharati. She's down with COVID-19. The minister for Ayush was down with COVID-19. And what did he do? He did not take Chyawanprash. He went, got admitted to a hospital, and to treat him, people from, not from the board of Ayurveda, but people from All India Institute of Medical Sciences went by flight all the way to Goa to treat him. So this is the sort of hypocrisy that we see today. The Prime Minister saying that India had the first example of a transplant. University Vice Chancellors saying that aeroplanes existed in this country thousands of years back. These are all the things that Periyar would have boo-hooed, ridiculed, questioned. But years after him, it is happening in this country today. In fact, Periyar's teachings, Periyar's life is an example for us to follow. But how many can do that is the question. In fact, I should say, in Tamil Nadu, when DMK was ruling, Periyar's 125th, I think it was in 2004, yes, birth year was being observed, I cannot say celebrated. And I had a program in Oru about rational thinking. And a huge mob came and stopped me from speaking. Just imagine that. So I wrote a letter to the then Chief Minister, who was M. Karunanidhi, asking him, you are the Chief Minister of the state, and here, 125th birth year of Periyar was being observed by a program on rational thinking, and a Hindu Munnani mob comes and stops it. And the police, instead of stopping them, they tell me, you wind up the program and go. But of course, a Periyarist group came to know about it. After a few months, another program was arranged in the same place. They came, they stood, and they said, now let us see who is going to stop it. And nobody had the guts to come and stop my program. So, it is a privilege that I am associated with Periyarist movement. When we had to conduct a meeting at Delhi, the North Zone meeting, it was DK who gave us the Periyar Maniamma. There was a university center which they, yes, DK had opened a Periyar center in Delhi where we had our meeting. So in every way we are being supported by the Periyar's movement, but we are working together. We took on scams in Tamil Nadu by something called as mid-brain activation. In fact, I should have been in Tamil Nadu this time, but for the problems of this COVID-19, a big event was planned. I was in Virudhunagar speaking at the beginning of this campaign. The end was supposed to be in Periyar Tidal, but of course, we have to do it only by video conferencing, which will happen 2 days after this. So, let me tell you, comrades, that Periyar is more relevant today than ever before. The message of rational thinking, the message of equality. In fact, the constitution under the chairmanship of Ambedkar is being under threat today. And all these things need a systematic struggle of the oppressed sections, the OBCs, the Dalits, so-called religious minorities, and every right-thinking citizen of this nation has to go by what Periyar stood for, and we have to launch a struggle against these fascist forces which are trying to bring down the very fundamental structure on which this country is built, the secular democratic republic under a constitution which promised equality to all, the freedom of religion, the freedom of expression. The freedom of religion also includes the freedom not to have a religion, like Periyar said. So, with this, I conclude. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.